In the small, quiet town of Akita, Japan, a puppy was born in November 1923. He was a small, white dog, with bright, innocent eyes that shone with curiosity about the world around him. His name was Hachiko, and though his life began like many others, it would soon become a story of profound loyalty and heartache that would touch the hearts of millions. As a young pup, Hachiko faced hardship. His mother was gone, and he had been abandoned on the cold, unforgiving streets. It was there, in the vast loneliness of the world, that fate intervened. Professor Ueno Izaburo, a kind-hearted and compassionate professor from the University of Tokyo, found him wandering the streets. Perhaps he saw something of his own loneliness in the puppy's eyes, or maybe he just couldn't bear to leave the small creature to suffer. Whatever the reason, Professor Ueno decided to take Hachiko into his home, treating him not as a pet but as a member of his family. The bond between Hachiko and Professor Ueno grew stronger with each passing day. The professor was a gentle soul who adored Hachiko with all his heart. He treated him with the same tenderness and care that he showed to his students. For Hachiko, the professor became everything: his protector, his friend, his guide. Hachiko had found a place where he belonged, and in the professor's arms, he knew warmth and safety. The two shared moments of quiet joy, walking side by side through the streets, their steps in harmony, their hearts bound together by an invisible thread. Every day, without fail, the professor would walk Hachiko to the Shibuya train station. It became their routine, one that Hachiko cherished deeply. The professor, with his briefcase in hand, would walk briskly through the streets, his face set with determination, while Hachiko trotted beside him, always staying close. When they reached the station, the professor would board the train to the university, leaving Hachiko behind at the platform, with a gentle pat on the head and a loving farewell. For Hachiko, those moments at the station were both bittersweet and full of anticipation. He didn't mind waiting. The train would return at the same hour, and Hachiko knew the professor would be there, stepping off the train with a smile on his face, ready to walk back home together. There was a comfort in the predictability of it all, the rhythm of their shared days, the warmth of the bond they had built. And so, every day at 3 p.m., without fail, Hachiko would return to the station. He would wait by the tracks, eyes fixed on the entrance, ears perked with hope. His heart swelled with excitement at the thought of seeing the professor again, even if it was only for a short while. But on May 12, 1925, everything changed. That day, the professor did not return. Professor Ueno, while teaching at the university, collapsed suddenly from a stroke and passed away. He was gone, and the world that Hachiko had come to know and love crumbled in an instant. For days, Hachiko's routine remained unchanged. He continued to show up at the Shibuya station at 3 p.m., waiting, watching, hoping. People who passed by noticed the dog standing at the platform, looking up at every train that came and went, as though searching for the familiar face of his master. But the professor was never coming back. Hachiko's heart was shattered, but his devotion to his master remained steadfast. He did not understand the finality of death. He did not know that the professor would never walk through the station doors again. All he knew was that his beloved master was gone, and the emptiness left behind seemed unbearable. Yet, Hachiko's heart refused to let go of the hope that one day, the professor would return. His loyalty did not waver. In the following days, as people learned of the professor's death, many took pity on Hachiko. The station staff, as well as strangers, began offering him food and care. They tried to comfort the dog, but nothing could fill the hole that had been left in Hachiko's heart. His soul longed for the presence of the one he loved. He didn't know how to live without the professor. Hachiko continued to return to the station every day, his body growing weaker, his fur graying with age, but his spirit never faltering. His loyalty, bound by love, was as strong as ever. Each day, his gaze lingered on the tracks, as if by sheer willpower, he could will his master back into existence. And so, he waited. Day after day. Year after year. For Hachiko, the pain of loss was immeasurable, but the bond he had with the professor was unbreakable. Through his unwavering dedication, Hachiko became a living testament to the power of love, a love that defied time, distance, and death itself. And though his heart was heavy with grief, it remained full of devotion, a devotion that would be remembered for generations to come. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Hachiko's routine never wavered. Every afternoon at 3 p.m., without fail, he would trot to the Shibuya train station. His paws, once light and swift, now carried the weight of years on them. His body, aged and frail, struggled against the pull of time, yet his spirit remained unyielding, anchored to the place where he had once joyfully waited for his master. Each step he took toward the station was a quiet testament to the depth of his love, the love that refused to be extinguished, no matter how many days had passed. The station, bustling with commuters and strangers, became a place where sorrow mingled with hope. Hachiko, though surrounded by people, stood alone in his vigil. His eyes would scan the crowd, searching for the familiar figure of Professor Ueno. Each time a train arrived, his heart would leap in his chest, only to sink again as he realized that the professor was not there. But still, he waited. Over time, the people who frequented the station began to notice the dog standing patiently at the same spot each day. At first, they assumed he was simply another stray wandering the streets, perhaps looking for food or a place to rest. But as the days stretched into weeks, and the weeks into months, something about the dog's dedication captured their attention. It was more than just a routine, it was a devotion so deep that it seemed impossible. How could a dog, a simple creature, possess such unwavering loyalty? The people who watched Hachiko every day saw the raw emotion in his eyes, the pain of waiting for someone who would never return. Some of the station staff, moved by his plight, began to bring Hachiko food and water. The local vendors gave him scraps, and the people passing by would often stop to pet him, offering a kind word or a gentle scratch behind his ears. But no matter how much care was given, nothing could replace the love that Hachiko had lost. He wasn't waiting for food, he wasn't waiting for comfort. He was waiting for the one person who had given him everything, the professor who had rescued him from loneliness and made him a part of his world. Hachiko's journey wasn't just about waiting at the station, it was a journey through grief, through the painful reality of loss. There were moments when his body would tremble with exhaustion, and his legs would ache, but still, he refused to leave the station. The world around him had moved on, but Hachiko's world remained frozen in time, locked in that single moment when he had last seen the professor. Every day, he would return to the same spot, and every day, the sun would set without the professor's return. People who passed by would sometimes stop and speak to him, wondering what he was doing there, why he waited so steadfastly for someone who would never come. His story began to spread, and before long, the entire community of Shibuya was aware of the loyal dog who had captured their hearts. The emotional weight of Hachiko's story was not lost on anyone. His presence at the station became a poignant reminder of the bond between a man and his dog, a bond so deep that even death could not sever it. Hachiko's loyalty was pure and unwavering, and in a world that often seemed to forget the true meaning of devotion, he was a living symbol of love's strength. In the heart of the bustling city, amidst the noise of the trains and the rush of everyday life, Hachiko's vigil continued. The city changed around him. People came and went, the seasons shifted, and time marched on, but Hachiko stood still, a silent sentinel at the station, his heart forever tied to the memory of the professor. Hachiko's wait was not just a physical one, it was an emotional endurance, a testament to the resilience of a creature who could not understand why the one he loved was gone. He didn't know how to let go, and so he didn't. Every day, he returned to the same place, believing, perhaps in his heart, that if he waited long enough, the professor would come back to him. His love for the professor never dulled, even in the face of heartbreak and loss. It was this unyielding love, this refusal to forget, that made Hachiko more than just a dog. He became a symbol of the eternal bond between animals and humans, a bond that transcends time, distance, and even death. And so, the days passed, and the world continued to move on around him, but Hachiko remained a fixture at the Shibuya station, waiting for a master who would never return. The pain in his eyes was undeniable, but so was the love that fueled his waiting. It was a love that never faltered, even in the face of unrelenting sorrow. As the years passed, Hachiko's wait seemed endless, yet his spirit remained unbroken. The once vibrant puppy had grown old, and his fur, once pure white, had now turned gray, a silent testament to the passage of time. His body had become frail, his joints stiff with arthritis, but still, each day at 3 p.m., he returned to the same spot at Shibuya Station. His heart, however, was not as strong as it once had been. The relentless pain of waiting for someone who would never come was wearing him down, yet he never stopped. He didn't know how to let go. His loyalty to Professor Ueno had become his reason for living. The people of Shibuya, who had first watched Hachiko in curiosity, now came to see him as a symbol of something far greater than themselves. His story had spread beyond the station. It had become a tale of love so pure that it transcended the barriers of species and time. Hachiko's vigil was no longer just the quiet wait of a dog for his master. It was a poignant reminder of the depth of devotion and the unfathomable bond that can exist between an animal and its human. Hachiko's daily ritual had become an integral part of life in Shibuya. The commuters would pass by him on their way to the train, some offering him a friendly smile or a pat on the head. They, too, had come to understand the profound loyalty he embodied. For them, Hachiko was not just a dog. He was a living symbol of a love that didn't fade, a love that remained constant even when everything else changed. The pain of his endless wait was something everyone in the community could feel, and it reminded them of the fragility of life and the power of love. On March 8, 1935, nearly 11 years after his last sighting of Professor Ueno, the inevitable happened. Hachiko's tired body, weakened by age and illness, could no longer withstand the toll of his vigil. The dog who had spent his entire life waiting for his master was found lifeless at the same spot where he had stood every day for nearly a decade. His body had given out, but his heart had never stopped longing for the professor who had once been his world. The news of Hachiko's death spread quickly, and it was as if the entire nation mourned the loss of this faithful dog. People in Shibuya, and even beyond, felt the sorrow of losing the dog who had become a part of their lives, who had shown them what true loyalty meant. The tears of the community flowed freely, for they knew that the story of Hachiko was not just the story of a dog waiting for his master, it was a story about love, loss, and the enduring nature of the heart's capacity to remain devoted. In the days following Hachiko's death, the people of Shibuya came together to honor the dog who had never once given up on his master. A funeral was held for Hachiko, and the nation joined in mourning. People from all walks of life came to pay their respects, placing flowers around the spot where Hachiko had waited so many years. The outpouring of love for the dog was overwhelming, a testament to the profound impact he had made on the hearts of so many. In honor of Hachiko's memory, a bronze statue was commissioned to immortalize him. Sculptor Ando Teru created a statue of the faithful dog, capturing him in the moment of his eternal wait. The statue was placed at Shibuya Station, at the very spot where Hachiko had spent so many years, standing proudly, eyes fixed on the tracks. It was a tribute to the dog who had given everything for the love of his master, a love that had never wavered, not even in death. But as the years passed, the world around Hachiko changed. Japan was plunged into the devastation of World War II, and all metal statues were melted down for the war effort. The statue of Hachiko, once a proud symbol of loyalty, was no exception. It was destroyed, just as many other monuments were. However, Hachiko's story could not be erased. The love he had shown and the lessons he taught about loyalty and devotion lived on in the hearts of those who had known his story. In 1948, after the war had ended, Ando Teru's son, Takashi, sculpted a new statue of Hachiko. This new statue was placed once again at Shibuya Station, a timeless reminder of the unbreakable bond between a dog and his master. People continued to come to the station to pay their respects to Hachiko, the faithful dog who had waited for a master who would never return. And every year, on April 8, the people of Japan come together to remember Hachiko. They gather at Shibuya Station, honoring the dog whose loyalty never wavered, whose love never died. Hachiko's statue stands proudly at the station, a symbol of unwavering devotion, a beacon of the love that transcends time and death. Though the professor was long gone, Hachiko's memory lives on, reminding everyone who sees him of the profound power of love and loyalty, a love that is never forgotten, no matter how many years may pass. Hachiko's story transcended time, becoming a cherished legend not just in Japan, but around the world. His tale, filled with love, pain, and unwavering devotion, continued to resonate with anyone who heard it. His memory remained a living force, not just through the statue at Shibuya Station, but in the hearts of every person who understood the meaning of loyalty. As the years passed, life moved forward in Shibuya. The world continued to change, the trains still arrived and departed, and the faces of commuters came and went. But there was always one constant, a bronze statue of a dog standing proudly by the platform, his head tilted slightly, ears perked, and eyes forever fixed on the tracks. It was a statue that captured Hachiko's eternal weight, an image of a love that never faded, even when the world around it did. For many, the statue became more than just a tribute to a dog. It became a sacred symbol, a place to pause and reflect on the power of loyalty. People came from all over to visit Hachiko's statue, touching his bronze fur, offering flowers, or simply standing in silence before him. Some came to remember a beloved pet they had lost, others to reflect on relationships and the love that binds us all. For some, it was a reminder of the beauty of selfless love that endures even in the face of overwhelming grief. Every year, on April 8, people would gather in Shibuya to mark the anniversary of Hachiko's death. The streets around the station would be filled with people paying their respects to the faithful dog, standing in a quiet, collective moment of remembrance. There were tears, of course, tears for the dog who had waited for so long, and for the bond he had shared with his master. But there was also a sense of gratitude. People remembered Hachiko not just for his loyalty, but for the lesson he had taught them, that love, when it is real and pure, has the power to outlast time, distance, and even death itself. As the years went by, Hachiko's legacy grew. He became a symbol of loyalty not only for animals but for humans as well. His story spread far beyond the confines of Japan, touching the hearts of people around the world. It served as a reminder that true love is not bound by time or circumstances. Hachiko had waited for the professor for over a decade, not because he was commanded to, but because his heart told him to. His loyalty was not born out of obligation, but from the deep, unbreakable bond he shared with the professor. Hachiko's memory reached new heights when, in 1932, a young journalist wrote a moving article about him. The article, which was published in a major Tokyo newspaper, quickly went viral, drawing attention from all corners of the world. Hachiko became a national hero, and his name became synonymous with unwavering devotion. The word chuken was even added to the Japanese dictionary, a term used to describe a faithful dog, inspired by Hachiko's extraordinary loyalty. But the most powerful aspect of Hachiko's legacy was not the accolades or the recognition. It was the profound impact he had on the lives of everyday people. Hachiko taught them that loyalty is not a fleeting thing, but a commitment that lasts even when the object of that loyalty is no longer present. He showed that love is not just a feeling, but an act of persistence, of standing firm even when the world around you is uncertain. His devotion was a mirror for the human experience, where love is tested by time and loss, yet remains undiminished in its power. For the people of Japan, and for those who heard his story, Hachiko's life was a reminder that the bonds we share with others, whether human or animal, are the most precious thing we have. The pain of losing someone we love is profound, but the love we carry for them does not fade. It stays with us, woven into the very fabric of who we are. And so, the statue of Hachiko remains at Shibuya Station, a constant presence in a world that is always changing. It is a symbol of a love that never dies, a love that is pure, unshakable, and eternal. Every day, people stop to look at the statue, to remember the dog who waited for so long, and to reflect on the lessons he taught. The world may have moved on, but the story of Hachiko, his undying devotion, his unwavering loyalty, lives on, an eternal reminder of the power of love that refuses to be forgotten. In the end, Hachiko's legacy is not just about a dog waiting for his master. It is about the incredible, unbreakable bond that exists between all living beings. It is about the love that transcends time, that survives even the greatest loss, and that continues to inspire long after the world has forgotten. Hachiko's love for his master will never be lost. It will live on in the hearts of those who understand what it means to be truly loyal, and in the hearts of all who believe that love, once given, never fades.